In this video, we're going to look at analysis. These are pivot tables and pivot charts. Now you can easily, from a grid, export the data into Microsoft Excel or similar program and create your own pivot tables, pivot charts. But this is a built-in capability that some congregations may use, some may not. But I just want to spend a couple of videos to show you how to use those that are already provided, as well as create your own pivot tables and pivot charts. Now, a little different than standard reports. Clear this up a little bit, classic or modern, the pivot tables analysis charts have to be bound to data before you can really do anything with them. This already has been created. It's using the contributions data type, given a title, but down here we see the live information, not just placeholder data. So we see contribution date, the amount total, and so on. Now up here are the additional columns that I'm not using. If we're to go ahead and print this out, and we'll do that, you will see these things at the top of the screen. Click Print the Pivot Grid, because that's the tab we had selected. You see at the top we have fund name and so on, and down at the bottom are the columns, the tables we're actually using, the fields we're using. All right. Now, of course, you can change the fit to, which shows more or less, depending on how much information you have so far. And you can change the orientation. Let's see where page setup is. Change it to landscape. Okay. We can change the zoom out. Instead of 100%, let's do the whole page. Okay. So this looks pretty good, except we have these additional fields that we're not using. So I can take these off by showing hide this field. The OID, you'll very seldom need it. The notes the same way. The deductible should always be yes or no, and by default it's going to be yes. We'll hide that. Hide the check number. We'll hide the method of contribution. For now, we'll hide the fund. We can come back and show that later. All right. You can change the summary type from a sum, which totals it all up, to an average. Okay. But we won't. We'll leave it as sum is what we want for now. So now if we go into print the pivot grid, it looks much cleaner with just the contribution date and the amount total. Let's go back and let's hide this again. Oh, I don't want to hide it. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Hide the field. Okay. But now we're not seeing the amounts down here. Now we're going to add filter fields. We're going to drag data items again. We'll show the field list, and I'll take amount back here. Okay. So we can't really hide that from the preview. But now we go to print the pivot grid. This is what we see. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the chart. The chart has been will reflect what we've got in the pivot table. All right. And we've customized this chart using the chart wizard. Now, one thing you do is change the chart type by clicking this little icon up here. You can make it a bar chart. Okay. We can make it a line chart. All right. Let's leave this for a minute. And we'll go to properties. Now, one of the things, of course, you see we don't have a legends displaying. If we put it up there, you'll see a legend here. You can give it a title, and we say giving by date. Let me expand this. Here we go. Giving by date. Okay. Whoops. I'm not showing it. Let's go back to Chart Wizard. And the title. We need to add the title. Here we go. And again, through the properties. Here's the text. We'll say giving by date. Okay. Now, other things we can do has to do with the formatting down here. Now we're showing already the value, and I'm using text pattern of currency. We click this, here's what we see. And if we were to change this to something else, we want to select currency as a type of data we're looking at for values. And in here, instead of the C, you could have single or double decimals. Let's do that. Let's add the argument in front of it. And now we've got the date here, and now we're showing currency with cents. Okay, so it's not just dollars, it's dollars and cents. Okay. So let's go back though. Let's change the chart type again. Let's put it back to, let's do an area chart maybe. Okay. Now, because we have the date field at the bottom, we may not also want to have the date as the data label for each value. So we'll come down here. I don't want to call up the dialog with the triple dots. I can just take that out and say OK. So now we've got, did I save it? Maybe not. Let's go back to Chart Wizard. Properties. I guess I didn't. Now I've got it. So now we click OK. We've just got the dates at the bottom, values here. Now we can print the chart, just like we did the others. And that one value is really high up top. So let's go back and let's show the row and grand total. Let's go back to print the chart. I still think it's too much. So let's change it to be fit to one page. And let's change the orientation to be landscape. That looks a little better. So let's close it down. And one other thing you could do is change and add a criteria. Now, because we're looking at dates, we might not want to have all contributions ever made, so we could add a condition. And the contribution date is what we use. And instead of a single date, we'll use a text value to say is year to date. So that means up until December 31st, all those dates will be included. You could have changed this to make it the last 6 months or whatever you like. But once we save it now, that criteria will be saved along with the chart. Now I've changed this from a bubble chart to something different. Let's bind the analysis data. Okay, I made it an area chart. So we might want to change the name to reflect that. But let's do something else. Let's add more fields. Show the field list again. And let's add the fund name. Now this makes things a little more interesting. So if we print preview the grid, let's again make it change to be, we don't need a header and footer right now. Let's click on page setup, make this landscape, gives us a little more on a page. Okay. Let's go back now to look at the chart and see what's changed there. Looks a lot different. Because I added this other column, the legend now makes sense because it's adding the fund. Okay. So let's go back in the Chart Wizard. Now remember we clicked this button to change the type of chart. Let's make it a bar chart. And here again you see, let's go back where we've added the funds. But let's make it a stacked bar chart. Now here again you see the contributions for a date and the grand total. They include a breakdown of how much was given for each fund. I think this is more useful. Now of course we could decide whether or not to show the legend by clicking the eyeball to hide it or to show it. And we can of course add things about the display of the legend just like we can everything else. But that's all for now. So let's change this. Instead of saying contributions by date bubble chart, we'll say stacked bar chart. And we'll save and close. Let's just look at a couple more. Let's look at this one. It's another bar chart. It's bind analysis to data. And this chart is similar, but it's not stacked. Okay. And if you wanted, you can again always hide that grand total or show it. Now let's go to the next one, but I'll save the changes. Okay, this is attendance. Let's look at the next one. Now I don't have to keep binding it, the data. We just keep going forward or backwards. This just gives you an idea of the different types of pivot tables and charts that I've included. So always come back here to the pivot table and see how the pivot table looks. And again, just like with the chart, you can print the grid separately. Let's change this to fit to one page. And you see a little more. Let's do page setup and make it landscape. A little better. Okay. And again, we've noticed the OID here. We don't really care about that. Let's close this and let's hide that field. Okay. And what else do we want to do? I think that's all for now. So we'll save and close. This was a quick introduction to the pivot tables, pivot charts feature. And next video, I'll show how to create one from scratch. Thanks for watching. Come back to see churchsecretaryforwindows.com for more videos.